Hi everyone, I wanted to make a video today and show off and talk a little bit about my Olamic whippersnapper. A few people had asked me about what it was like getting this customized. So here's the build I've got. Just going through, this is the Warncliffe blade, dark blasted frames, blue entropic inlay, titanium, blue entropic finish on the backspacer, blue entropic finish all matching on the clip, and regular blue anodized hardware on the screws. This came to me as a plain stonewashed titanium handle and a dark acid stonewash blade. Oddly enough, I actually got it used off of the Olamic Enthusiasts Facebook group from a guy in Switzerland, of all places, which I think one of the most surprising parts about that was that the shipping took under a week to get to me in New York State. But yeah, I had initially picked it up knowing that I had seen a bunch of interesting options and things like that, seen a bunch of fancy ones popping up, but wasn't really sure what I liked and what I wanted. It wasn't positive if I was going to like the knife enough to bother with it. So I picked up basically the plainest one I could find at a reasonably good price, and once I got it, decided I liked it enough to go ahead and work something out. So basically, I contacted Olamic through their website. They've got a form on there for customization. And pretty much they sent me a quote after I started describing things I was interested in. They have a whole gallery of basically all the builds they've done. I don't know if it's all of them or just a bunch. Showing off the various inlay works that they do. There's a whole bunch of different options, and it's really kind of overwhelming. But basically I had seen a picture of one they had that was pretty much this, at least on this side. And that's what I knew that I liked. I liked the darker stonewash look. It came off even darker than this in some of the photos I had seen. And the whole entropic finish as well as the dark blast seem really sensitive to light angles and things like that. You can probably see as I hold it up. And I was kind of like going back and forth quite a bit on the different options and how I wanted it, because I had an idea in my head that I liked the idea of having, the pop of color here that kind of continued through and matched into the back spacer and something on the back with the clip. And really the options I found for that would either be what I ended up doing with this, with having them machine out and inlay this piece of titanium for this stripe with this special anodization on it, and then doing that on the backspacer and clip. The only other real options that they had that would allow me to get it where I had the matching inlay to match the backspacer and clip would either be either Damasteel or Timascus type option. And those were going to be, that would have been like almost $300 more than this, just because the clip and the backspacer would have been whole new pieces of material rather than just refinishing. So I figured I'd rather have everything match than, go that extravagant for something like that, and just keep the pop of color on the stripe in the back and everything there. Oddly enough, I did not really make this connection at the time, but I've watched Nick Shabazz's video on this model again, and he actually has an extremely similar build from what I can tell. He's got the same stripe inlay with the entropic, I think his is a purple kind of entropic finish. I think his clip matches, and then he's got some other kind of file work on the backspacer. I went for the more kind of seamless, inlay to backspacer and whatnot. And I went for the darker blasted handles because I like the more contrasty look between that and the blade and everything. Oddly enough, the one thing I didn't do was the blade itself. They were going to charge me like an extra $100 basically just to hand sand it to 400 grit, kind of hand satin type thing. So I just took it apart and did that myself to save a buck. And I actually did some further polishing just with a little cotton Dremel wheel, some green compound, and some diamond spray. So it's a somewhat polishy kind of blade finish, which is fine by me. I don't think anyone would notice. The only funny thing though, to me at least, is when I got it back from them, they did reissue the certificate of authenticity with the creation date, or at least when they did the mods up at the factory there. And it's still listed as having an acid stone washed blade, which, obviously they're not going to change that since they didn't do the work on it, but it's obviously not at this point. Some of the other things they did that was great was when I had gotten it, it had a few issues with this pivot screw especially. It had been stripped out a bit. When I got it, it was having issues of backing out and using just a little bit of Loctite on there the first time. I could not get this thing apart for the life of me after that, just because the screw head was a little bit stripped. So they replaced all that. I think they replaced a couple of these other body screws that were starting to have some issues with backing out, and the heads weren't in perfect condition. And I didn't get charged any extra for that, so that was great. Overall, the upgrades on this ran $150 for doing the work with milling out the stripe inlay. I believe $30 for refinishing the clip and backspacer total, and $20 for doing all of the screws and hardware, re-anodizing those. So they did some excellent work on this. I was in some ways surprised that even based off of the new listing I had seen for this particular model, since they are serialized, I was able to look this up and see that this went for $380 and brand new in the configuration that I got it. Not gonna say what I paid, a little less than that, but still, when you total all that out, it came to less than what the model that was extremely similar to this that I was basing this off of was being sold for new. So I actually do think in a way that I really appreciated being able to have a plain one that I was able to go ahead and pick out exactly what I wanted for, and get that done and still have it come out to less than what they were selling this configuration for, as just a kind of random lottery. If you find one, get lucky with it, and great. So yeah, that was a bit of the experience with actually getting that work done. Might as well bring out just Par 3 lightweight. It's a size comparison kind of deal. Sort of a standard. It's a 2 3/4 inch blade on the whippersnapper, although a lot of the cutting edge gets taken out by the sort of finger choil area here. It does make it feel a little bit like a little utility knife or straight razory kind of thing or something, although with the grind on it, it's a little bit of it's a little thick feeling blade. Not the greatest slicing thing in the world. I've got my own edge on it, just 20 degrees and nicely polished edge and everything, as best as I could do. So it's sharp, works well. Yeah. And then the one I would compare it most closely to, probably in my collection, at least right now, is actually going to be this. This is the Urban EDC Supply F5.5. It's the Jesper Voxney design that I got recently. Again, 2 3/4 inch blade. This one is more of a sheep's foot profile, which the whippersnappers come in also. Very thick blade stock, although I think this has a more impressive grind to it. And the micarta and the ergonomics are, top notch on this guy, but kind of stacks up in terms of at least pocket presence and overall shape and presentation a little bit. Just that this guy's more pocket jewelry and this guy's more of a I don't know, it just feels like a great little tool to use and whatnot. This, despite the thick stock, cut up a piece of fruit with it and whatnot, helps having the sheep's foot as opposed to the straight Wharncliffe like that. But, a little bit of a similar profile. Back to the whippersnapper, just as a knife in general and not just as the configuration and fancification I've done here. I've mentioned a little bit about the blade not being the sliciest thing. The other thing is not just because it's the Wharncliffe with the straight edge, but also because of the way that it's kind of canted forward as it sits in your hand. It's definitely got a weakness where you're not going to be able to cut down on things. This is not something I could ever see myself being able to cut an apple with as a result. You could, but wouldn't be very practical, let's say. But it is almost like a little bit of a space-agey kind of straight razor kind of look to it, especially with this tall, prominent front flipper tab up in the top here. You can use your index finger for sure, pops out easily like that. Use your thumb, of course. You can kind of slow roll it, which works, and I have a lot of luck just spidey flicking it. This is very, very fidgety. I don't really have much luck trying to do a thumb flick, especially since I end up leaving my index fingers on the lock bar too much when I try, but also just because I'm not able to get enough purchase on this blade hole right here. I have problems with that on other models like the F5.5 as well, where it's not a completely round like the spider hole, but not too big of a deal. I end up either using my middle finger or primarily just using the flipper tab up here. Another big compliment I would say would definitely be the clip on this, and putting aside the finishing that's been done. I am really a fan of the way that they've done this clip, and I'm not really aware of another company using anything like this really, because it's not a solid titanium milled clip. It's basically a piece of titanium screwed through with a couple of barrel spacer type things in there. And that works pretty well. I feel like it's a good compromise between sort of the nice fancier version of having a straight milled titanium clip, but it's got a little bit more interest while keeping a little bit more modular. And I feel like it makes it a lot easier to get the tension just right. A lot of the times with a milled titanium clip, it tends to be too much pressure and tough to get in and out of the pants, but the way they've done it here seems to work pretty well. Then lastly on that, it's basically a hemisphere type ball type thing that they've got that interacts between here and the body. That makes it very easy to slide in and out of the pants as well. Just kind of nice. Haven't really seen anything done like that before on other clips designs that I'm aware of. Overall, as it stands, I love this thing as a piece of, pocket jewelry, which is what I was going for. I love the fact that I was able to get something that, even though it's, more or less picking from a big laundry list of modification options and whatnot, I was able to come up with something and get it configured just the way I like it. Even though I based this off of something on their website, this is likely, in this particular configuration, a one-of-a-kind piece. And they did great work for what I think is honestly a pretty good value for what you're getting based off of, what it costs to get, just a custom set of, carbon fiber scales or something like that made for just screwing onto the body of a, I don't know, TRM or something like that, or a Spyderco, whatever. A lot of work went into this with the titanium work and finishing and everything compared to just scale sets and everything. So I was impressed with that. It's obviously more permanent. If I regret, having this fancy finish on the pocket clip sticking out makes me a little bit more paranoid about getting that scratched at all when I do carry it, because since this is just an entropic finish on titanium, this is going to be a lot more sensitive to scratching and stuff like that. You wouldn't be able to really just fix the scratch on my own as a result, as opposed to something like a Damascus or Timascus, where the pattern is solid all the way through essentially, since this really just is surface anodization with a crazy polish job that they've done here. So that makes me hesitate a little bit to carry it out, but it is kind of a special occasion thing, especially being a higher end customized piece that I really was able to build out the way I like it. But definitely, the ultimate conclusion I got is, the things that you hear about what Olamic's willing to do for you to customize any of their pieces. Um, yeah, I was very thrilled with the service there, and especially the turnaround time. I mean, I probably had this back within 2 weeks of sending it out, which is pretty impressive, especially compared to, even having warranty work done on a Benchmade or something like that. It seems to take a month plus. So the turnaround time was great. I thought that the value was great for what I was getting with, um, the work being done and what was charged, especially compared to what they were going for the new prices. Um, and was able to get a reasonable amount of help, just going through and making my decisions just based off saying, here's a model on your website, what's this, what's this, what's this, and then having them come back with, that's what this is what the price would be, etc. So if you're into Olamic, or if you want to check one out, getting a plain one and having it beautified to your taste, definitely a worthwhile thing to consider and check out. I had a good experience, and I'm happy for the work that they're doing and service that they're providing there. So hope this is informative. You all have a good one. Thanks.